So I've got my Premiere project file open that I always, edit off of, and I've dragged in your video. That video that you made that I said I was gonna look over. You sent me a message. Let me see. Let me read a few of the messages here real quick. Let me know if you want changes or edits put in. To be honest, I found myself repeating a lot of the same shit and found myself to be cringe as fuck, but I'm very self-conscious. So you do repeat a lot of the same shit, and I'm gonna show you how you're gonna fix that. That would make it at least 10 minutes, show some humor, and be relevant to the title so it doesn't come off as clickbait and piss people off. You need to stop worrying about clickbaiting and pissing people off. That whole part where you talk about, I'm not doing this for exposure, I'm not doing it, just comes off poor, and you shouldn't even talk about it. If you act sincere and you are sincere, people will not think that you're just trying to write off on them. And if they are, I'll come over there and I'll tell them to fuck off. And you can just ignore them, because that's one thing you're gonna realize: the bigger you grow, the more haters you're gonna get. You just ignore them. It's hard to do. I still sometimes let them get to me, but you need to really work on not worrying about them. So the fact that you repeat things and you feel like you're rambling, that's because you might need to start writing scripts. I do on the fly shit. I feel like I shine really well when I'm just like, point the camera at me, hit the record button, I'll say words. And it usually works out really well, but there are times that I tangent so much. It's one of my biggest weaknesses. And while my tangents, I think, are helping to explain what I'm talking about, it just confuses people and it's rough. So you might have the same issue, maybe not so much tangenting, but more, I don't have a clear idea of what you want to do. So that's just all going about scripting and recording, right? But then you have editing, and editing, there's so much I would change in this video. And I'm going to show you how I would change it in my Premiere Pro. This is when I said I'm going to be real with you, because there are core things that you should just know, things that you should learn very early on as editing. Don't do that. I need to start doing this, etc., etc. Green screen. I will say this: your green screen is not perfect. It's close to perfect. There's a core problem with your green screen. You have a chair that is green. That's rough, dude. Like, that will always be an issue. It is impossible to chroma key out a green background with a green chair. What you could also do, I don't know what type of green screen you have. I don't know if it's wallpaper, but if it's possible to make it like blue or some other color, you can chroma key those out too. There's some other things about your green screen that screams you need to fix this ASAP. Like, you have autofocus on. You probably have auto exposure and gain on. Those are terrible to have on. You need to tweak them to where they're perfect, and you need to create in a controlled environment, blackout curtains, everything, to make sure that when you turn your lights on, the light source is always the same. And that means when you perfect everything, every day you stream or every day you use your green screen, it will always work, and there are never variables inside to fuck with it. So let me jump straight into the editing. So you start off with the vaping, and the more and more I watch it, I like that it's a little inside joke to us, but when you make a funny joke, you need to make sure it gets to the point. Okay, so here's the first thing I notice. What are you doing right here? See how you're like kind of staring off? What are you looking at? I think you're looking at like your OBS. Make sure that I'm perfectly in the camera. For example, your camera placement. Notice how when your head's cut off, you have to raise your camera up. You have to somehow get it farther back. Green screen is supposed to give the illusion that you were just magically in there with no background. You want to try to get this to where it doesn't cut off. So there, you did it. It starts to blur. Autofocus. That needs to go off now. Let me see if I can fit it in here. Okay, configure video. You can see it. Autofocus needs to be off and cranked all the way to the left. Easy. Exposure, if you look at my face, hold on. Turn my lights back on. Okay, so you can see around me, it's all like gray. It's perfect, right? If I were to fuck with my exposure, notice how things become a little bit more, if I go really high up, you see the light, obviously, you're probably aware that's a bad thing. But even if I go like a little bit too high, you can see more of a fuzziness around my head. I'm also laggy. That's not good. One would think that if you set this to auto, it would be fine, but it's not. You kind of get to cheat. You get to make yourself look how you want to look. So look, this looks really weird. That looks awful. So you just want to find the middle ground. And if you notice up here, look at the top left. See how it's a little fuzzy? Then note if I mess around with it, see there's like that. So you want to find the perfect amount of, okay, I'm not fuzzy, but I also have color in my skin. You can also mess with color intensity. It's whatever. But make sure you turn that auto shit off, and you just take time to make sure that everything's good. You look like you have a general idea of understanding how green screens work. By the way, you want a light specifically on you, and then you want light specifically on your backdrop. You normally want 2 lights on your backdrop, 1 light on you. That lets it so the contrast is very obvious for OBS to be able to use a chroma key properly. Another thing is, I don't like vaping on stream. And if you notice when I vape, I kind of lean off to the side and then I blow it off. It's because when you vape with a green screen, it does this, and it doesn't look good. And the fact that your head is cut off, you need to fix that. It just ruins the green screen effect. And the bigger you have the cam, the more obvious all this stuff is. So let's just keep going. You blow it, and then the instant you're about to look down, it's just weird, you know? Like, you look like you're kind of confused when you're recording. Like, oh, should I do this? Does it look good? A little good? Don't do that. You got to look cocky, dude. So I'm going to cut it, and I'm just going to delete all this, and then I'm going to cut right to you talking. And I just cut out 6 seconds of video right there. Understand? 6 seconds of video. That's a lot. So the overall premise is you wanted to show yourself vape because you have a squonker and you wanted to tell me that it had more flavor. Cutting out those 6 seconds of that dull moment, this is what I preach to my editor. If there is a dull moment in my video, get it out, delete it. I want to get straight to the point because viewers have an incredibly short attention span. I watched your video and I had to turn it up to 1.5 speed. I had to, because you talk a little bit slower. Now, to be fair, I talk at 1,000,000 miles per hour, and I've heard people say that they had to slow down my videos because they couldn't fucking get it all. But it's better to be faster than normal than slower than normal, because not everyone's gonna speed up their shit. And if they're just like, if you're saying words and people are just like, okay, I'm bored, and they're gonna click out. It is astounding how fast people give up their interest. They just say, I'm bored. So let's drag this over to the beginning. Let's keep going.
You can even taste it.
I say a lot in my recordings too, but what's great about editing is you can cut them out. Sound bad. If you've ever done public speaking before, are terrible. It's better to just be silent and just think in your head, but it's such a bad habit to break. So if you could try breaking the habit of saying this means you'll need to edit less.
To the video, this all started.
So I would do this. I want to start it when you start saying words, not words.
Into the video, this all started with a
See, it just cuts, and you may think it looks bad, but it's fine. Like the way that you're like looking like this. See how you go from there to there? To improve that and to make sure that doesn't happen as much, if I say something in the camera and I'm looking at it and I say, hey, what's up? Kami here. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna say. So I freeze. Like, look, dude, looking at the camera, and I'm like, what's going on, everyone? Kami here. And today we're gonna be taking a look at Koga. And when you edit it and I cut out that part where I'm just staring at the screen looking like an idiot, it looks like it's just a seamless transition. But if I was like, what's going on, everyone? Kami here. The difference between me looking at the screen and me looking forward is a very obvious cut. You want to make as many cuts as possible, but you also don't want the cuts to be obvious. And it happens sometimes, right? There are habits that you're going to build through recording because you're going to be editing it and you're going to, wow, it's really annoying to edit around this. And then you're going to go, oh, you know what I could do to fix that? I'll make it easier. So another example of something you could have done to make this easier to edit, you go from to this really quickly. And it's hard to find that perfect spot so you don't hear any of the but you also get all of the this. So if you ever catch yourself saying just be like and then stop. Then say this, and then that gives you a solid silent minute, a silent second, like you see this little silent moment here, to cut right there to make sure that it starts with this. Cutting out cutting out silent parts, all really important. So I'm gonna keep going.
This all started with a DM. I left a comment.
Okay, so right here, just look at this dull moment right here. Bam, just cut, drag. This is shit I do every day for every video. I cut out every dull moment. Again, you have a green screen for a reason. Find a different background in this. Like, see how cluttered your desktop is? See how, I think you have like a picture. Is this literally your background as a picture of, no, I think that's just Mozilla. No, dude, that's your background. That's a rough background, dude. And it's something that you're proud of, and I think it's great, but it doesn't look good on video. It's so cluttered. Get a cleaner background, you know? You've seen my background when I do these types of videos where my head's big. It's like an office. I spend a lot of time in the Photoshop, make sure everything looks clean. You'll want to make sure to try to clean up your desktop. Just delete everything or move it to another monitor if you have one. You look away from the camera a lot, but try to get in the habit of looking at the camera, because as a viewer, when you're watching it, it feels like you're talking to me.
Never expected it.
Never expected it. Cut out the
I'm not making this video for exposure. I'm not making.
Again, this part I do not like, and I will end up cutting it out. So again, you see how I would have done the vaping, right? Much quicker, but I'm gonna do what I would do. Just cut it all out. Don't need it. It's something, it's more of an inside joke to us, but I'm just talking about you want the best video you can get out of this video that you sent me. I would cut it out. When you're editing, think about, if you cut this out, would the viewer lose any valuable information? And then you'd ask yourself, is it valuable information to tell people that you're not doing this for exposure? No. It's not. It's actually hurtful to you because it makes you look like you're defensive, and you're not defensive. You're just doing this to create content, get better as a content creator, and accept my help. So every time you talk about it, it looks bad. This is something I've been working on for so damn long, not to talk about that shit. Now that I'm finally getting decent at it and I see it happen to you, I need to tell you to nip it in the bud now before it becomes a problem.
Comments.
Okay, so there you kind of linger on that S. Try to make your enunciation quick, like make them pop. We're just again shrinking up all the dead space. This may seem like min-maxing to you. This may seem unnecessary, but it's not. It makes your videos so much better when you do shit like this.
And this video that I'm making, and this is just.
So there you breathe. I do that a lot too. Like catch your breath, right? Get back into it, cut it out. You just generally talk kind of slow. That's not an insult. That's just the way you talk. And sometimes when you talk kind of slow, people are like, get to the point. So editing helps you out that way. You can talk slow all you want. I think one big thing, and this is completely unrelated to video editing, you gotta get confidence in yourself. To be entertaining and to be helpful for others, you gotta have your own shit figured out for the most part. And you taking this step of accepting this, like you said, you had to swallow your pride. If accepting this criticism is hard and you're doing it, that's awesome. Good for you. That's improving yourself.
Hi guys.
Okay, so that transition was awful. I'm gonna be real with you. There's a term that I like to use called PowerPoint transitions. PowerPoint transitions are the ones that people use in like 7th and 8th grade with cool little speckled checkered flags. They could be used appropriately, but they usually need a little oomph, some video masks, some photo masks. I'm not gonna get into that right now. A simple sliding transition like this is not that bad, but just speed it up or just cut straight to it. You're underestimating the ability of dry cutting, and dry cutting is what I'm talking about this. No transition, just cuts. The problem is you started the transition in the middle of you saying decade, so I can't cut this out, because if I cut this here and then go here, it's gonna look real weird, right?
Hi guys.
Obviously that's gonna look weird. So this is what I'm gonna do to kind of band-aid fix this transition. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna section this part out, and this is the rest of the transition. After you get done saying words, this section right here, and I'm gonna speed it up. I'm gonna go speed up. This might be a little rough because it's gonna go slow and then it's gonna go fast.
Hi guys.
Okay, so that's a little bit better, I guess. It's just a little bit of a speed up. It looks rough, and that's because I'm trying to band-aid fix a bad transition in the first place. So here, I like your cam being smaller. White backgrounds can be really noticeable on bad green screen. So if you fix your settings and shit, I see shadows here, that's not good. You don't want shadows on you. You want you to be evenly lit, but it's less noticeable when you're smaller, and I like that.
Hi guys, it's been a while. Basically what happened.
Right here, look at this. If you're gonna say something, make sure you're in the proper position in your cam to make it the same. When you make cuts like this and you're changed so drastically, it's weird. Some edits might not be as easy if you're not recording with proper etiquette. It makes it a lot harder. I think there's a lot you can learn on with editing, and there's a lot you can learn on with recording, and hopefully the tips that I've given so far have helped.
Hi guys, it's been a while.
I like that. It's been a while. Okay, so we're cutting out the uhs.
I like to watch KamiVS when he uploads.
Do you think a lot of people call me KamiVS? I don't know what people, I don't know what the fuck my name is, dude. KamiVS is what I call myself a lot. But yeah, KamiVS, I dig it. KamiVS is actually brilliant, like Marvelverse, like a universe. Where were you at creating name time?
I left
Oh man,
the comment.
There's no way I'm gonna be able to fix this, dude. That autofocus is fucking you hard. Make sure to turn that off.
And then I went to sleep.
Like, just really think about this. You're at 12:39, and there is a solid 2 seconds that you just kind of stare at the screen. That's silly to keep in there. You could argue, I'm gonna get ahead of you on this if you've already said this a million times while watching it, that not editing it as much gives it more of a real feel. Like, I'm just gonna sit down with you and be real with you, you know, go AC Slater on your ass, turn my chair around and just be real with you. And it's raw, you know, it's raw, it's got emotion. But editing it doesn't remove that. The fact that you're just talking one-on-one gives it that emotion. In case you were thinking that, edits still are very important.
And I got home and I saw that.
But you hear a sound how weird that sounds. Think about in real life when you're writing something out, and it's like, I want you to list 5 things. You don't say, I got apples and bananas and a mouse pad and I did your mom and then I went home. No, you do commas, right? So you cut out the ands completely. Again, those are those transitional words that you don't need when you're editing, especially when you do hard edits, because when people see the hard edit, they know that's the and right there. So this is gonna sound really weird being so close together.
And then I went to sleep and I went to work and I got home.
See how weird that sounds? These are things that I've learned. I used to do the same exact shit all the time. And I apologize, by the way, that you said that you've messaged me a lot on comments and I've never responded. There was a point in time, remember when I was going through a rough time, I didn't read comments because people would write hateful things and I didn't want to read them because the instant I read them, I would go ball up in a corner in my bedroom and cry myself to sleep. Like I didn't want to deal with it. So I stopped looking at comments for a while. And then I forced myself to start looking at comments because I would find comments like yours and people that said, I loved your video and I loved your edits and hey, what vape mod you got? And you know, how's life? And I could just have a real conversation with them. Again, like I said, to reiterate, fuck the haters, ignore them. They are nothing.
I've never expected him to actually.
Ooh, that's perfect. What you did there was fantastic. So you stuttered right there.
I've never.
And then you like stopped and you said, okay, that was a bad take. I'm gonna do it again. And you know what that does? That gives a great spot to just cut to and bam.
Hard. I've never expected him.
See, it sounds so good, dude. It looks so good. Try to do that more often. Oh man, this is when I almost teared up. I pretty much did tear up when I heard this part.
Kami, first off, let me say I love you. and congratulations.
Thank you. Love you too, buddy.
I've been watching you basically since I started playing Paladins. I never thought I'd be making this.
There's a lot of times in our lives where we think to ourselves, I never thought we'd be doing this, but I rolled the punches.
And I'm shivering because I'm cold.
Okay, the way that you were kind of getting a little shaky in your voice, I started to think that you were getting emotional, like you were almost gonna cry. And you said you've cried in a video when you got 1,000 subscribers, and that's awesome to show emotion. But it was almost like you were like a tough man. You were like, oh, by the way, I'm shivering and I'm shaking because I'm cold. And you like were saying it as the transition was happening. It was just super weird. I would completely cut that out. Like you're over explaining things and it looks kind of bad. That's disgusting, Brandy. How would you do that? How dare you? Now, this is the part that gets repetitive because it's essentially repeating the same thing that you said in the YouTube comments. But the fact that we're cutting it now and we're making it pop, 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 get the shit out, get the words out of your mouth, it should be a little bit better. A lot of this stuff, it's just not important. You're just reading what you're saying, but there are certain things in there that are important. And talking about your struggles is big.
Blah, 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 blah.
This is actually pretty funny now because you're like, I talk about my struggles and then I can cut to the blah, 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 and then listen to how all this sound. I think this is gonna sound really funny. Sometimes you don't notice edits like this, and then I'll cut something and I'm like, oh, it's so much funnier without all that like 5 seconds of other words.
My struggles, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so that gives you like a lighthearted feeling about it. You're like, I'm going through struggles, but like, blah, 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 blah. No one cares. But people do care because they're watching this video. If they've made it this far in your video, they care. And since they already care and they're already watching it, it's like, you've already sold me, quit trying to sell me. That's why I wanted to cut that out. I don't want you to feel like I'm saying that what you're saying is not important. I just don't think it's important for the video to get the point across as fast as possible. Sometimes I have to cut out things that I say that are kind of funny or kind of important, but I'm like, it's not as important or as funny as the other stuff, and you have to condense. Usually I get a video and I cut out all the dead space, all the not funny moments, and then you have to start making decisions like, I need to cut this out to shorten it up even more. If you cut out a lot of shit and then you smush it up and then it still makes sense, you did a good thing. So the reason I know that you have your exposure at auto is because when you lean in, that's why I knew that you had high exposure. If I cut this here like I want to, just because I don't want you to say because or whatever, since you lean in, it kind of looks weird. Let's see how it sounds. Let's see how it looks.
What I do now is react.
It's a little choppy, but that just comes into remembering when you're recording to record the proper way, like I said a while ago. So now this is a big transition change, right? Remember, all these cuts are hard edits, but when you transition from this clip to the other, it's a big change. That's when you want to add a transition like this. Okay, so another thing, look at all this. See all the audio, see how it's like, it's pretty good, right? Your mic's pretty good. Now look at the outro. It's fucking blasting, dude. You made me jump out of my chair when I got to this part. Balance your audio, 100%. I'm gonna change this audio and I'm gonna bump it down by like 17 decibels. And then let's put a transition. Let's put a constant gain on it so it doesn't just jump at you out of nowhere. You also never want your outro to be longer than 10 seconds. You don't need this long. Let's try it one more time. Sorry, I was getting into the drum and beat. You have a 7-minute video in 1 second, and I cut it down to a 4-minute and 1 second video. This is the fluff that I talk about to cut out. It makes the world of a difference. I hope you made it through this video. I hope it helped, because I'm hoping this will take you a week to just fully grasp and practice it into your edits. I'm head out of here. Later, dude, and good luck.